On a stormy night in New York, the city that never sleeps seemed wrapped in a deeper veil of darkness than usual. The streets glistened with the reflection of lights on the wet pavement as thunder rumbled in the distance. Emily, a 32-year-old photographer, abruptly awoke from an intense nightmare. Her heart was racing, and the sound of the heavy rain against the window echoed in her small apartment in Brooklyn. In the dream, she was in a vast ocean beneath a starless sky. A woman emerged from the depths, with wavy hair like seaweed and eyes that reflected the ancient wisdom of the sea. The figure reached out to Emily, whispering in a voice that sounded like the waves themselves, "Come to me, child. Yemanjá awaits you." Frightened and intrigued, Emily sat up in bed, trying to understand the meaning of the dream. "Yemanjá," she repeated in a low voice, feeling the name resonate within her like a distant bell. The next day, unable to shake the dream from her mind, Emily decided to research the name that haunted her. On her laptop, she discovered that Yemanjá was an Orixás, the deity of the seas in Afro-Brazilian culture. Images of the goddess depicted her as majestic, surrounded by seashells and starfish, emanating an aura of mystery and power. As she stared at one of the images, a shiver ran down her spine. The lights in her apartment flickered, and for a brief moment, she thought she heard the distant sound of drums. Determined to learn more, Emily went out for a walk. The streets of New York were as bustling as always, but she felt disconnected, as if she were in a world apart. Turning a corner, she came across an old shop she had never noticed before. The facade was adorned with strange symbols, and in the display window, a necklace with a shell pendant seemed to glow under the soft light. Pushed by an invisible force, she entered the shop. The scent of incense and herbs enveloped her immediately. Behind the counter, an elderly man with deep eyes watched her intently. "Welcome, Emily," he said before she could utter a word. "How do you know my name?" she asked, surprised. "The winds whisper many things to those who know how to listen," he replied enigmatically. "You are looking for answers, aren't you?" She nodded slowly. "I had a strange dream about someone named Yemanjá. I feel that. I need to understand what it means." The man smiled gently. "My name is Senor Batista. Come with me." He led her through beaded curtains to a room at the back. The walls were lined with shelves filled with old books, amulets, and ritual objects. In the center, there was a circular table with an astral map drawn on it. Senor Batista took a worn leather-bound book and handed it to Emily. "This is a grimoire about the Orixás. You may find the answers you're looking for here." As she flipped through the yellowed pages, powerful deities looked back at her. Ogum, with his flaming sword, Oxum, holding a golden mirror, Iansã, wrapped in whirlwinds. Each illustration seemed to pulse with life. Suddenly, the candles in the room flickered, and a shadow swiftly passed through Emily's peripheral vision. She turned abruptly. "Did you see that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Don't be afraid," Senor Batista said calmly. "When you open the door to the spiritual world, it's natural for some things to pass through." "But why is this happening to me?" she questioned, feeling increasingly uneasy. "Perhaps the Orixás have plans for you. But remember, with knowledge comes responsibility. Not all forces are benevolent." As she left the shop, night had already fallen. Senor Batista's words echoed in her mind. As she walked back home, she noticed that the people around her seemed distorted, like reflections in disturbed water. She felt a growing weight, as if she were being watched by invisible eyes. Arriving at her building, she found a black envelope taped to her apartment door. Without a return address or stamp, it bore only her name in silver ink. With trembling hands, she opened it to find an invitation. "You are cordially invited to an exclusive Candomblé ceremony. Tonight, at midnight. Address, 444, Rua das Sombras." Emily had never heard of that street, but a map attached to the envelope showed that it was in an old neighborhood of the city. Her instinct told her to ignore it, but something stronger compelled her to go. At midnight, she found herself in front of an old building, with Gothic architecture and stained glass windows that glowed under the moonlight. The heavy door creaked open, revealing a candlelit corridor. The distant sound of chants and drums echoed off the walls. A tall woman, dressed in traditional attire with striking eyes, approached. "You must be Emily. I am Mother Lucia. The Orixás are waiting for you." "How does everyone know my name?" she asked, feeling a mixture of fear and fascination. "The spirits communicate what must be known," Mother Lucia replied with a faint smile. She was led into a large hall, where several people were moving in dance to the hypnotic rhythm of drums. The air was heavy with the scent of herbs and the pulsating energy of the ritual. Emily felt drawn to the center of the room. Suddenly, the drums stopped. A thick silence fell over the place. A man with glassy eyes approached, speaking in a voice that seemed to multiply. "Emily, stranger in a strange land. You have crossed the threshold between worlds," the deep voice said. I am Exu, guardian of the crossroads. Are you ready to choose your destiny? She tried to respond, but the words wouldn't come out. Her mind was flooded with chaotic images, diverging roads, doors opening and closing, unknown faces. Every choice comes with a price, Exu continued. You seek knowledge, but are you prepared for the consequences? Gathering courage, Emily finally spoke. I want to understand why I'm being called. What do they expect of me? That is something only you can discover, he replied before stepping back and falling into the arms of an assistant, as if he had lost consciousness. The ceremony continued, but Emily felt overwhelmed. She hurriedly left, the cold night air hitting her like a wave. The streets were deserted, and shadows seemed to dance at the edges of her vision. In the days that followed, strange phenomena began to occur. Objects in her apartment moved around. Voices whispered her name when she was alone. Vivid dreams transported her to unknown places, where ancient entities watched her in silence. Trying to find answers, she returned to Senor Batista's shop, but found the place closed and abandoned, as if no one had been there for years. Confused and frightened, she decided the only way to understand what was happening was to go to the source. The atmosphere was completely different. Vibrant colors, music in the streets, the smell of the sea. But even here, she felt that something was watching her. Following instructions left in the old book she still carried, Emily found her way to a small fishing village. There, a child approached her and, without saying a word, handed her a shell before running away. I've been waiting for you, said a voice behind her. Turning around, she saw an elderly woman with a serene presence. I am Mother Rosalina. Come, we have much to do. In the days that followed, Emily participated in rituals, learned ancient chants, and listened to stories passed down from generation to generation. She felt connected in a way she had never experienced before. One particular night, Mother Rosalina took her to the beach. The full moon illuminated the sea, and the sound of the waves was hypnotic. This is the moment, said the elder. Yemanjá wishes to speak with you. Entering the water up to her waist, Emily closed her eyes. A sense of peace enveloped her, followed by a powerful presence. When she opened her eyes, she saw the luminous figure of Yemanjá emerging from the waves. My daughter, said the Orixa with a melodious voice. You have answered my call. Why me? Emily asked, tears streaming down her face. What do you expect from me? You are a bridge between two worlds. Your open heart and search for truth have made you special. I want you to share our stories, to keep the flame of our culture alive. Emily felt a wave of understanding and acceptance. I will do as you ask, she promised. Upon returning to New York, Emily dedicated herself to creating an interactive exhibit, combining photography, music, and storytelling to share the richness of the Orixa culture. She worked tirelessly, gathering artists, musicians, and storytellers. On the day of the opening, the gallery was packed with people. The images Emily captured conveyed the depth and beauty of the traditions she had experienced. Visitors were transported into a world of mystery and spirituality. During the event, Emily took the stage. A few months ago, I was just a lost observer in the chaos of the city, she began. But an unexpected journey led me to discover a rich and powerful culture that changed my life. The Orixás taught me about connection, identity, and purpose. I hope this exhibit allows you to feel a little of the magic that I experienced. The response was overwhelming. People from different backgrounds were touched by the stories and images presented. The media highlighted her work, and soon Emily was invited to speak at universities and cultural events. But not everything was glory. With fame came criticism and skepticism. Some accused her of cultural appropriation, others of charlatanism. But Emily stood firm, always honoring the origin and authenticity of her experience. On a quiet night, while contemplating the city's silhouette from a terrace, she felt a gentle and familiar breeze. The distant sound of drums echoed in her heart. Thank you, she whispered, knowing the Orixás were always with her. Her journey was far from over, but now Emily understood that life was a series of interconnected paths, and that her role was to continue sharing stories, connecting people, and honoring the ancestral forces that guided her. Thank you so much for watching this captivating story about Emily and the Orixás. If you felt inspired or touched by this mystical journey, don't forget to leave a like and share this video with friends who also appreciate stories full of mystery and meaning. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming content that explores the unknown and makes us reflect on the world around us. Leave your comment telling us what impressed you most about this story or if you've had a similar experience. Until next time, and remember, there's much more between heaven and earth than we can ever imagine. And so, Emily continued on her path, understanding that her connection with the Orixás and the spiritual world was just the beginning of a long journey of learning and sharing. Each step she took brought her closer to the profound truths that few dare to seek. The full moon shone over the city, and the sound of drums, once distant, now echoed strongly in her heart. And you, what would you do if you had the chance to cross the threshold between two worlds? What price would you be willing to pay for knowledge and wisdom? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss upcoming content, and leave your comment below sharing how this story touched you or if you've had a similar mystical experience. Let's continue exploring the unknown together.